You're so handsome.
So should we start now from the second?
Start.
Okay, let's go. Hello, Alana.
Hello.
Hello, Simba.
Hello.
How are you going?
He's much happier than what he looks.
Is he?
For you.
Yeah, and you can tell that, can't you? Because you're his mummy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, he permanently looks unimpressed. But if you mention food, it's the same. So
Right.
it's just his big eyes.
He's gorgeous. You have some really amazing. I love watching your Instagram feeds with him because he's every now and again you'll post a photo of him and his adorable little face doing something.
He always looks cranky. I think I annoy people with that, but oh well.
I don't think that's annoying. People love animal shots. They love it.
Well, people who love it, they enjoy it. So
yeah, whenever I show my girls, they're always like, oh, like a chorus of, it's beautiful.
He's a character.
What are we talking about today, Alana?
I think we're talking about the internal things that are going on during the coronavirus pandemic.
Yes.
And the more that I talk to people, the more that I'm hearing that a lot of people are doing reviews of their relationships,
yes,
and their lives during this time. It's kind of like because all of that external noise, the external noise has disappeared. So now more of us are actually listening to our internal voices.
And see, I hear that and I hear that as we're working on, it's not working on, but we're more aware of our relationship with ourselves and our relationships generally, like relationship with ourselves and our relationship to the world. And then obviously naturally that flows into relationships with other people.
Yes.
Yes.
And because I think someone else explained it beautifully too. They were saying, I feel like because we're reorganizing parts of ourselves physically and parts of our lives physically, that we're starting to reorganize parts of us internally as well. And we're realizing that there are parts of ourselves inside that maybe we didn't realize were there before, and they're kind of bubbling to the surface. So there's all this stuff that's coming to the surface at the moment. I think for a lot of people, and not in a bad way in some cases, but it's more just, we're realizing, that's actually a big part of me that I haven't actually been looking after for a long time. We're all changing during the coronavirus crisis, and the lockdown is kind of bringing a lot of stuff up to the surface, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely. There's a lot that happens when we're in obviously a different situation. And I think people have moved out of the initial phase, which was shock and being stunned and numb. And there's still a level of that occurring. But we're more, it's that time of contemplation. There's more space almost to do it.
Yes. Well, and it's quiet. So the external voices, the external noise has gone down a little bit. And so now a lot of us are hearing our internal voice.
I agree. I mean, that's certainly been my own lived experience, and a lot of the people I'm talking to as well. And I think also that, because I know that I'm running a very busy life still. I'm being a mum, and I'm managing the impact of COVID-19 on finances and getting all that stuff together for the JobKeeper and all that.
Like so many people. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and they were on the phone to Centrelink, and they've been on the phone to Centrelink, I feel like, every single day, just trying to get that sorted.
Yeah, so there's all this stuff that we have to do to respond to it.
Yeah, so it's not like we're just sitting around just meditating.
No, and like baking and crochet and floating from room to room. So we're not doing that. So there's busyness. I'm still doing my business as much as I can, and I'm loving my online stuff that I'm doing. So all that's happening. But then in amongst all that, there's a different aspect to it, isn't it? You're going into the studio, you're still recording the news.
Yes, still reporting the news. And I feel like this week I've noticed how much of a toll it's actually taking on me physically and mentally, because we've been talking about coronavirus for months now, every single day. And it's covering a story that's a huge story that isn't just impacting you when you're at work, but obviously it's impacting everybody you love, everybody you know, and yourself. So that's unique in itself. And I've realized this week that I'm tired.
And
work is tired.
So I said that again. What was that? Everyone work?
Everybody at work is tired as well.
And see, I hear that and I think, of course, and it makes complete sense to me, you know, obviously working as a therapist, that if you think about what you're doing is you're living your own lives, you're managing all the stress that comes with that. And yet every single sentence that you say when you read the news, if you think about it, on some level, your brain and your body is recognizing the impact of that on other people, on yourself, people that you care about. And we know so therefore you're exposed to that traumatic content every single day. And we know that trauma is cumulative, and it's the, like the rest of us, we can turn off the news, right? I can decide, I can absolutely, and that's what I'm saying, I can filter it. I can say, I'm not listening. I've gone for days where I just haven't listened. But you and everyone around you in your workplace, there at ARN, are absolutely every single day. It's taking something from them, taking something from you, taking something from you. And that's how it works. It accumulates time after time after time after time again. So for you saying you're exhausted does not shock me at all.
And I think too, though, is that we genuinely love what we do. So we haven't realized the toll that it's taking, because we actually live for moments like this. As a journalist, you want to be of service to other people, you want to be breaking a story, and you want to be helping people. So it hasn't hit me until now, physically, how tired I am. And then also the mental toll, not just the emotional toll, but just that, you know, you want to be getting all the facts right. And it's a complicated issue that's changing hour to hour. So you've got to bring up a lot of you've got to have a lot of capacity to just keep churning out content that's correct, that's accurate. And you've got to listen to Scott Morrison talk for a good hour and then figure out which bits are the most important part, which bits are new. And sometimes the things that he says kind of contradict other things that he said, or something that a premier said. So there's you've got to come up with a lot every single hour. I think we're a bit tired, which is what we were going to say. So there's parts of ourselves, I think, that we're reorganizing physically.
Yes.
And we're having to reorganize parts of ourselves out there due to the restrictions, due to the lockdown. But then what's happening too is that we're reorganizing parts of ourselves internally as well.
Absolutely. And
because it's so quiet, because it's when we don't have as much stimulation on the weekend or at night, we're sitting there and things inside of us are surfacing or bubbling up. And not even in a bad way. It's just that we're realizing, I think, desires that we have inside of our hearts that we'd like to see come to fruition. And a lot of us are just realizing that we have parts of ourselves that we didn't realize we had. And truths are coming up as well, I think, for a lot of people. And the feedback that I've been getting too is a lot of people are reviewing relationships, their stance in certain relationships. A lot of people are feeling pretty overwhelmed in certain situations at home. Others are feeling like they're realizing that they want to do their weekends differently because they're not spending enough time at home. We're hearing, we're finding a lot of truth for us during this time.
And I'm hearing that too with some of the people I'm talking about it, and I've certainly had my own lived experience of that, where, you know, I've it's almost like in the busyness has been there. Of course, our lives don't stop, and as we were saying, like, we're busy with doing all the other things we have to do managing COVID-19. However, you know, in my own experience, I know that I've had this space, right? And not really, right? If I think about it like, I feel like I'm still running.
Yes. I feel busier than what I've been in a long time, and it sounds like you are too.
Yes. But somehow in all of that, there is more space.
Yes.
For contemplation and reflection.
Yes. And Katrina, I've actually thought about that too. And I think that it's almost that in modern life, there's a rat race, for one, that's been put on pause at the moment during the coronavirus crisis. The pressure to achieve, to do, to be busy, that's stopped.
It has.
It's like the universe has given us a little permission slip to say, hey, you can just take a break from life at the moment and pressure at the moment. So and I've also spoken to a lot of people too who've told me that not seeing people go out all the time on Instagram, they feel like, oh, it's okay to be at home. It's okay to not do much on the weekend. And they love that feeling. So it's almost like perceived pressure as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone down a little bit.
So
And judgment from other people, or perceived judgment from other people, that's on hold.
So therefore, if we look at that, that really what is actually on hold then is but a combination of perceived pressure, the pressure we put on ourselves to achieve, pressure we put on ourselves socially to go out in the world and be social people and all that kind of stuff, and to be doing. But also there is the perceived pressure is on hold, but also the actual pressure
Yes.
of physically getting out the door to go and do things if you're fortunate to not have to work, go to the office.
Yes.
The actual pressure of, achieving in your workplace or your career.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's actual pressure plus. So yeah, that's right. That's what's created the space, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And so there's all this space around us, and kind of like this room to fill it up with other stuff. And I think that that's where people are realizing, oh, there's parts of me that need to be nourished, or there's parts of me that I need to work on, because there's more room for them at the moment, and for us to actually get in there and have a little look.
And so with the space comes clarity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the clarity, people are seeing things like, I think, I'm curious to hear what you're hearing about, what people are seeing. But with this, we get clarity on, and it always works this way, I think. We get clarity on what is working well in our lives. So that's magnified with this clarity. But then also what is not working well is magnified with the clarity. So for example, in my situation, I've had an experience where in the space I've created, I've seen myself doing another review of balance in my life and boundaries, and where perhaps I've been out of balance in some of my connection with beautiful people. So I really only have beautiful people that I allow into my world. Otherwise, you're not allowed in. So I've got beautiful people, but with some beautiful people, I've been able to see with clarity that I have not held enough boundary for myself and for them.
For them as well.
Hey?
For them as well.
For them as well. For them as well. So I have not, you take responsibility, right? When you're looking at boundaries, you're looking at what boundaries aren't you keeping for yourself, and what boundaries of theirs are you encroaching? See? Right? So, and that's when we're really taking full responsibility, when we're taking ownership of our way of being in connection and relationship. And so for me, that's been it feels like it's been sad and painful in a way, like to be able to, because there's some people I've said, look, for now I need to pause, in my connection with you, or I need to change the shape of my connection with you. And I've done that, and there's been sadness with that. But once I move through the sadness, it feels healthier.
Yes. That sounds very, very like it requires a lot of self-awareness.
Well, yes. What's wonderful is that the space has been created, and that there is room for them to be having some self-awareness, whether they're aware of that's what it is or not.
Yeah.
So
I'm hearing from different people all different things too. So some people are saying that with this coronavirus crisis, they're realizing that it's time to review how they spend their weekends.
yes,
Some people are saying, oh, look, I've realized through this that I see people out of obligation, family members, or it's great to see them, but I don't need to see them as much because there's other things that I'd rather be doing at this moment. I've got creative projects. I've got things that mean a lot to me at the moment. And so I'd like to see them, but just not as much. So priorities are becoming clearer at the moment. Also, some people are realizing that being around certain people is draining. So they don't necessarily want to be around those people. I've heard other people tell me that they're loving being at home with their kids, and that they're loving the affection and all of that too. So there's that going on in some people, I think. Other people too are in domestic violence relationships, and then they're realizing through this that they need to get out. And I think that you're hearing that from a lot of people as well, Katrina.
Yeah. So I am hearing that, and that's one I think I'd love for us to spend a little bit of time talking about. Yes. Yeah. So what I'm seeing too is I'm seeing that people are going through it's a great way of describing it actually, a relationship review, because it's they're doing a relationship review with themselves,
Yes.
other people, like their love relationships, their friendships, their family members,
Yes.
but also relationship to the world as well.
Yes. And as you were saying too earlier, it's for some people, they're still really busy because they're working from home. And some people's businesses, like yourself, therapist, you're talking to people during a really hard time. So there'd be a lot of people that would be calling you. For me, I'm a journalist, so I'm working nonstop as well, covering the coronavirus. So there's some people that are very, very busy, but even they seem to be experiencing what's going on because there's a lack of stimulation on the weekends or at night.
Mm.
And my theory too is that the perceived judgment is also easing. So it's like we've kind of been given a permission slip where we're not participating in social activities. We aren't, trying to achieve, do, and be more because at the moment we simply can't. There's a lot of people that are experiencing, I guess, a quieter life, and they're not experiencing as much pressure at the moment as well.
And we've spoken before on other podcasts about, perception is such a critical aspect of how we experience life. And, and at the moment, I think what we are seeing is we're seeing really, there's real pressure. There's real pressure that's been relieved, and there's also perception of pressure that's been relieved. So
yes, that's absolutely right.
Yeah, so we don't have to go, I don't physically have to leave the house and get the girls to school. They just go into their rooms. So just that one aspect, for example, in my life, has reduced an enormous amount of pressure because I'm not good at getting the kids off to school in the morning, So, right. So that's one actual pressure. I don't have to, for some people, they're no longer under as much pressure to perform at work because many workplaces are saying, COVID-19, yet we still need to get some things done, but we understand that it's different now.
Yes, and the other thing I think that is changing for people too is the perceived pressure. So we often feel like we need to be doing more. For people that are high achievers, they feel like they should be enrolling in a certain course or like their business should be doing super well. But at the moment, the economy stopped, so there's the financial pressure to achieve.
Yes.
Eased. Obviously it comes with all the other horrible pressure because it's about paying the bills and getting by and putting food on the table. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that many people, they feel like they don't have to be the best version of themselves at the moment because the world's on hold.
Have the space now to be able to look and see clearly, and this is what I'm hoping for people, how much pressure they put on themselves to be out, to be doing, to be whatever they need to be for others, And
people seem to be getting a lot of clarity at the moment because there's no external noise. So they're able to listen to the internal voice.
Yes.
And the true parts of themselves and the desires of their heart are coming out as well because they don't have all that chatter.
And what they notice in that stillness, in that space that's created, once the pressure or the perceived pressure is released, that space that's created around them,
yes,
they get connected to who they are.
Yes.
But then they also see the incongruence or the difference between who they are and what they really want and what they've really been living.
Yes. And you've been finding that at the moment, Katrina?
Yeah, look, I've got a few people. Obviously my practice is, so I do talk to some people, and I'm hearing, and this is coming from friends and family, and myself, I'm hearing that so many people are really reflecting on relationships. Okay.
Yes, so I'm hearing that too. Absolutely.
Yes. So they're looking at their friendships, they're looking at their love relationships, and they're working out what's working for them and what's not working for them. And it's becoming abundantly clear.
It is. It absolutely is. Like the people that I've been talking to as well, all this stuff has kind of bubbled to the surface that they didn't know was there. or things that they suspected were there, but they didn't actually give them enough room.
Yeah, well, they didn't have time for it. So what would happen is, for example, I'm assuming, let me have a little guess with the people you've been talking about. So say, for example, one of their things is I must go out every Saturday morning and meet whoever, for a coffee, right?
Some people are saying that, they have relatives that always come over and they sort of see them out of obligation, but now they're realizing, love to see them maybe once every fortnight, but now I'd like to use this weekend to focus on my creative pursuits, because I actually feel a sense of abandoning myself when I don't put energy into my dreams and my creative activities.
Exactly. And so if we think about it, what we can help these people to see is that if they look back on every single time they got together with that person, they were doing what they needed to do out of obligation or duty or even joy. They might have liked it, but there was a part of themselves in their gut, their vagal nerve, in their gut, they had that little gnawing feeling that they would just allow themselves to feel, but then quickly bounce away from and keep going on to doing what they need to do to meet the duty or the obligation.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah, and now there's an experience where they have the space to feel that feeling when they think about all that, or every time they've gone and done all that, and now they're experiencing the contrast, which, like, they finally can feel the alternative, which is time for self and time exactly how they want to spend it in a way.
Yeah, and actually what you just said there too, it's like we're spending more time with ourselves and we're getting to know ourselves.
I know. It's wonderful.
It's so beautiful. Yeah. And for some people who have spent a lot of time with themselves, getting to know themselves, I think even they're experiencing a deeper level of it. I mean, I think, Katrina, things have been changing for you as well.
Yeah. So for me, one of the things that one of the things that came through for me, and it's been amazing, is I've had the space that I've had, because I've been, as I said, very busy running around doing online stuff and just, being a mum, all the crazy busy that you've done, that we've all had to do around coronavirus. But somehow, because of that release of pressure, I've had this space to reflect. One of the most profound things that's come through for me is the way I experience certain friendships and connections with people. And what happened is I noticed how with some people, I'm actually out of balance.
Yeah.
This is where we get to see the greater depth of beauty in other people. And
that's very true.
Because we're also experiencing the depth of beauty within ourselves.
Yes. And there's no distractions.
No.
So we truly see each other and look at each other. And there's a desire for it too. I mean, you walk around and people want to talk to you. I go downstairs and get a coffee and everybody wants to stop to have a chat. It's lovely.
At a socially appropriate distance. Yes, that's correct. So, so I know it's amazing. And I think this is the kind of, and whether it's relationship with friends or relationships with partners or lovers or, whoever it is, it's or work colleagues, it's such an important time to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with the lockdown rules easing as well, I think that other things are coming to the surface. So people are really recognizing that, hey, do I want to return to that way of life? Do I want to return to those relationships? Yeah. I'm hearing some people say that the other desires that are coming to the surface are things like the desire to have a family or be in a relationship, and they didn't realize how much they wanted that. For me, I've had a similar revelation like you. For me though, it's around relationships. So without that perceived judgment, again, but something I've always sort of known, like I'm really happy by myself. Yes. And through time, I've realized how fulfilled I feel, and I love all my creative projects, and I love my work, and I love my friends, and I love my life. Yes. And so I realized too that there's not really much room for a relationship, and there's not actually much of a hunger for one, aside from maybe, and then my mind started thinking, well, it would be nice to just sort of have like a part-time relationship.
I know.
We're all coming up, like, I don't want somebody coming in and taking over my weekends. I don't have time for it, and I don't want that at the moment. But I'd like to have an honest, I'd like to have some kind of honesty or sort of a part-time situation where you see them once a week and have a hot date and, you
Yeah,
know, that's it. But
absolutely.
that may change, but it's more that also because there's not that, for me, it was perceived judgment. Why is she that age? You know, why is she in her 30s and she's single and, you know, and why hasn't she met anybody? But like when I actually really sit with myself, it's genuinely that I don't actually have a desire to just be with anybody just for the sake of it. It's just not how I'm built. Whereas some of my other friends, they're finding in this space that that's what they long for. They really want a relationship and a baby. And again, like I may change, but it's just like really getting to know what your true desires are. The other thing too that I've noticed as well for me personally is with these coronavirus restrictions, I've had no physical touch for like 100 days. Physical touch is so important to me. I'm such a sensory person. And I always used to also just get a weekly massage just to kind of calm my nervous system and to start the weekend after a big news week. I'd love to get a foot massage or a full body massage, and I'm not doing that at the moment. So I'm starved of affection.
And the thought of that for me, when I hear you say that, I just think, because I have been fortunate, I've got a hugger that comes around on a regular basis and hugs me, you know, my husband.
Yeah.
And I'll get that male, gorgeous wraparound feeling, you know. And obviously I hug my children. So I get that all the time, every single day happening for me. And as someone who is a absolute hugging, physical contact person, I cannot comprehend the gap that's been left, the feeling of that. So I just, and then how many people are out there at the moment? I was talking to someone yesterday, okay, and they hadn't had for 5 weeks physical contact with many.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's it. Especially elderly people too, who are living by themselves. And something else that came to mind, Katrina, is we've spoken about it in a previous podcast. The physical touch is really important for humans' well-being. Yes. So they've done studies, and we've talked about this before, that newborn babies that weren't physically touched became really unwell.
They died. So they had, that was years ago in Romania, and some people would remember this in the orphanages, where their babies are there, they're getting their physical needs met, they're getting food, they're nice and warm and snug, they've got all that physical stuff there, but they weren't getting that emotional and emotional connection and hug and touch, because that's the way we communicate that emotional connection. With babies is interacting with them and holding them and touching them. That wasn't happening, and many of those babies died.
Wow.
It showed us a lot about how important that emotional connection and physical touch actually is, not even just superficially to our well-being, but to our very survival.
Yes, absolutely. That's really well said, Katrina. And so I think there's a lot of people who are going through that at the moment. They're starved of physical contact.
Yes, and I think when I tell that story or refer to that research, I hope that people hear that and actually say, well, the feelings you've got within you, where you've really missed that, and where it's really been so hard, the agitation you might feel, you know, the loss you might feel, the sadness you might feel. This is actually this is normal. These are normal responses, and if you're not feeling that, means you're a robot, you know.
Yes, and actually another response that a lot of people have had, and we did a story about this, people are having really vivid dreams.
Yes, so tell me about that. What's happening?
Yeah, so the stories across the world of people just having really bizarre dreams. Some people are having beautiful dreams. They're just dreaming more intensely.
Wow. And what did they say? Why is that happening? I don't really understand. I mean, because I do a little bit of dreaming, and my children actually have been telling me about having more vivid dreams. So why is that happening?
Girls, did you say?
My children, my girls are telling me that they've been having more vivid dreams. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So there's a couple of theories. They're not sure, and they can only kind of speculate. But one is that we're stressed, so that you have nightmares when you're stressed or frightened. So that would explain people who are having frightening dreams.
Yes, I understand that part. Yeah, I've been more the beautiful.
But I was more interested in the other aspects. So they actually think that because we're not stimulated, our minds when we're asleep are going to all these faraway places. And I love that. So research in the past has shown that people who are in confinement hallucinate but that they also dream more intensely.
Because they're taking themselves out of that world into the
Or,
real.
or, well, perhaps, but also it just could be that the brain does that because there's no stimulation day to day. So, and then other people say it's just because we're getting more sleep and we're sleeping better. So naturally you'd have better dreams or deeper sleep and more dreams.
I think
So,
I missed the memo. I missed the memo about more sleep. I because I and also other people I've been talking about are having difficulty sleeping, and there's a lot of more people. So I think we're getting. I mean,
some people are like, and we feel restless and irritable because those things, like I said, for me, I love a massage, I love a cuddle, and that's sort of the way that I self-regulate. So those things, they've been taken away from us. So then when we hit the sack of a night, we can't sleep.
and
And other people are up because they're worried about their finances.
Yes, they're worried about every aspect of life. So what we're talking about is the full extent of the human experience in this, that we have people who are sleeping more, people who are sleeping less, and people who are dreaming more, people having more nightmares. And I think again, what we're talking about is the magnitude of the whole experience, really.
Yes, and it's it's different for each person.
And I think that's something that's really important to understand, is that it is different for every single person. So when we're talking about this experience of, really reviewing their life and reviewing relationships, and we know what we're talking about is we're talking about relationship with self, relationship with others, and relationship with the world. That's what's being reviewed, whether we're aware of it or not. Now, some people don't necessarily put an intellectual understanding to that, but I can guarantee that's actually what's happening in our bodies, right? When we're having a moment at home with the absence of that pressure, and we're doing some wonderful activity, right? That is absolutely a moment where we're feeling, oh, this feels good. And you're going to want more of that.
Yes, absolutely. And so the other thing too that people are going through, so they're reviewing their lives, they're taking a look at what's working and what's not working. And so then some people are realizing, hey, after this, I want it to be a different way.
Yes. And here we have this amazing, almost like a tension point. And this is something
and there's a lot of discomfort there.
Yes.
Because you can't do anything about it, or it feels like you can't do anything about it at the moment. So you may realize, oh, like my friend, really wants to have a child and meet somebody. Very hard to do that at the moment. And other people, they have career goals now. They've realized, hey, this job doesn't work for me. I want to do something else. Other people might be in a domestic violence situation and they're finding it difficult to cope. A lot of people have a lot going on at the moment.
Yeah, and there's an interest. I think one of the things I love to share is that there are two ways that we experience that discomfort. So one way is I'm feeling the discomfort of something I want to create for myself. Okay, so I have a dream, a vision of how I want things to be, and it's something good that they want to bring into their lives. Okay, so they're feeling the normal discomfort that we all feel, which is, okay, I've decided I want it, and I'm going to now go forward and do it, but I have to pause even longer because of COVID-19. That one?
Yeah.
Second type of discomfort is I've realized that these are the changes I need to make to my life, that I want to make in my relationships, in my relationship with self or others or the world. I want to change that. But I know that to navigate what I need, I may have to engage in some tricky conversations. I have to practice boundaries, say no, choose myself, stop, engaging in self-betrayal, all of that. And then can be some anxiety about, well, how am I going to do that? Can I do that? So it's that knowing that you need something.
Yes, that's right. The yearning.
But then also being fearful of, the process that you need to undertake to achieve that.
Yes.
Those kind of
and just being confused about which approach to take.
Well, it's overwhelming. It's absolutely overwhelming, But what I would say to those people is that just like we had in Australia, we've had this experience where we had the fear of COVID-19 coming. We can use this as a bit of a metaphor and analogy. With the fear of, COVID-19 coming, we did what we needed to do. And we talk about the idea that we bought time for Australia. And so there's time now to prepare. They've got more masks, PPE equipment in, and we've got more ventilators in. We've had all this time now that other countries didn't have to
Yeah.
prepare. We can apply that to this scenario as well, because people now have more time to prepare to achieve either those dreams that they want, or learn the life tools, do the self-reflection that they need to do to then be able to navigate.
That's beautiful, Katrina. It's so true.
Mm.
And so all right. So yeah, so Katrina, what sort of things can people do at the moment if they want to make changes now or down the track?
I think what's really important is that people are in a place at the moment with COVID-19 where they can't necessarily put into action things that they've decided or identified
Yes.
want to have different in their life. And so that in itself causes a frustration. So then we must always come back to, what can we do? What can we do? So I would suggest a few ideas. One would be sitting down and writing, or at least talking to someone and describing what it's going to feel like, the feelings you're going to have once you make that change.
Okay, yeah. And the things that you're dreaming about, and is it kind of visualizing how life could be?
Yeah, it's like creating your life. It's like the visualization. It's like a bit of law of attraction, really. It's like, okay, this is what I would like to do. And they can get very detailed. They can literally go, on my ideal Saturday morning, I wake up in the morning, and I've done this myself and it works, I'm telling you. I wake up in the morning, I put my feet on whatever floor, this is what my day looks like, this is how I'm feeling, and they literally can describe.
What I'm wearing.
Yes.
Like a real sensory experience.
Yeah, so soft fabrics, and I go out in the sun. So all of these things we describe, okay, but also describing what we're doing, but also how we're feeling is really important, okay? Now, even doing that is doing something. It's doing something, okay? We can start writing lists of when we can do these things. Who are the people that we want to have conversations with? We can write them a letter, not send it. Everyone don't send it. But we can write them a letter. And we can write to them and say what we want to say, and we can start crafting those conversations.
Oh, nice too. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a nurturing way of doing it. So I think there's that, and then I think the other really important thing is to be really kind to yourself as you're experiencing this change. Be kind to yourself about the fact you want something different, the fact that you're feeling tension at the moment, you're feeling that tension, that disappointment, you can't quite start putting into action the things that you want to do differently.
Yeah.
And to be kind to yourself and nurture yourself and say, well, that's understandable that I'm feeling, that tension between knowing what I want and being able to put it into place. That's understandable. It's understandable that, whilst I love doing what that girl Katrina Kavanagh and Alana McIntyre said in the podcast and write down my ideal day, I'm now still feeling a tension of a little bit of frustration that I can't put it into action. That's understandable, so it's that dual process that's really important.
Yes, and I spoke to another friend too who I suggested that she do something similar, and she felt a lot of resistance because she started saying, yeah, well, I'd love to think about, what kind of job I'd have, but there's no jobs and we don't know when those jobs will become available again or when the economy will pick up. And then we kind of came up with this idea, and I said, well, what about if you kind of go, okay, well, this is kind of how I dream my life to be in a few years' time.
Yes, so I talk to people.
The pressure off and of you trying to figure out and solving a global pandemic and how the economy is going to look. It's more, how will it look in a few years' time?
So to go further in the future, yeah, I think that's that's a wonderful suggestion because it takes the pressure off for it to be now, and it takes the pressure off for, the minute it's over and the minute we can, start doing instantly creating this in my life. And yeah. And the other thing I'd add to that is it's really important for people to write a very descriptive list about not only what experiences they want to have, but also how they want others to treat them. So literally, I want to be treated like this, and list how they want other people to treat them as well. It's very important.
That's beautiful, Katrina. That's really, really good.
Okay.
And and then the other part too, I think the internal critic in a lot of people comes out when they start doing these visualizations or planning for the future. And a lot of people kind of think, oh, well, like if I never did it before, then how could I achieve this later on? But then my thought goes to the fact that, well, hey, you never dealt with a pandemic before. And we probably never in our wildest dreams would have imagined living like this and being able to cope. So we might surprise ourselves.
I think we'll definitely surprise ourselves.